What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to a new YouTube video. Right here, what we're talking about is Aaron Donald, the best defensive player of all time. Now, notice what I said right there. I said best, okay? I did not say greatest, because if we're talking greatest defensive player of all time, it is undoubtedly Lawrence Taylor. There really isn't a debate. The likelihood of Aaron Donald becoming greater than Lawrence Taylor is almost zero. I mean, you'd have to have some crazy success. Not saying he can't do it, just saying it's very unlikely. The question, though, that we have is he the best defensive player of all time? So we're going to talk about Donald. We'll talk about J.J. Watt as a current day kind of comparison. We'll talk about Reggie White, and we'll talk about Lawrence Taylor. Another guy that you can potentially bring up, but we've already done a separate video on him, is Deacon Jones. So go check that out on our channel. Now, right before we get into the video, we are doing something new where we are going to highlight kind of the top comment. If there is like a good comment that we really like from the most recent video that we had, our last one, we had two comments that we wanted to do. A lot of people were not happy with our Luka's overrated video. The first one was, guys, go knit a sweater or something. You obviously don't know what you're talking about. That was from MILF's Porch. Thought that was funny. And then another one, it was pretty long, but I'll just read the part that was funny. It says, this was from Michael H., who said, and the clown in glasses really just compared the East that LeBron had to get through with the West, which is so much better. It's a joke. I just thought him calling Matt was the guy in glasses was hilarious. So that's Matt Amakana.
No, not the guy, the clown in the glasses.
Clown. Yeah. Even funnier. So, yeah, if you guys want to roast us, or if you have some sort of take that you think goes along, or you have a channel suggestion, if we like it, we'll talk about it in the video. We'll bring it up. But let's get into the video talking about Aaron Donald. Matt, is he the best defensive player of all time? Let's just go through how freaking good he is and how underrated he is. Because personally, I think we would both say he's the best player in the NFL.
Right now, yeah. I mean, it's either him or Patty, one of those two guys. Also, you brought up Lawrence Taylor. I mean, Lawrence Taylor right now is the best ever. You look at him, you go, okay, the dude won 2 Super Bowls, an MVP. The chance that Donald wins the MVP, especially in today's NFL, is very unlikely. And he won 3 Defensive Players of the Year. And just crazy numbers. Hopefully you flash those on the screen right now, because Lawrence Taylor is very legit. But Aaron Donald, man, I'm a 49ers fan. I've seen Aaron Donald throughout his whole career. We saw him drafted. I think he was drafted either 11, 12, or 13. One of those. Absolute steal. Maybe one of the best draft picks of all time, if you're being honest, because you didn't get him top 10 and you got a superstar. So Aaron Donald, 3 times Defensive Player of the Year. He won Rookie of the Year. Most people think of him just as a defensive tackle. This guy is not just a defensive tackle. He lines up all over the line. You can put him at 5 tech. You can put him at 3 tech. You can put him at 1 or 2 tech. He can play all of the positions on the defensive line. You see him out there on the edge sometimes, which is very odd for a guy that's a quote-unquote defensive tackle now. But Aaron Donald, last season, I thought was, I mean, he didn't put up the most crazy numbers, but it just kind of shows how great he is. 13.5 sacks. Now, I say not the greatest numbers. It's still an elite season. But let's look at a couple guys that he helps elevate their game, because that's something that's not talked about defensive players enough. So Leonard Floyd. Leonard Floyd came over from the Chicago Bears. He's an outside linebacker. He played that edge position for the Rams. And if you go through his first 5 seasons, I'm just going to go through sacks. I know that there's a lot of pressures and stuff, but just sacks alone. 7, 4.5, 4, 3. Those are all with the Bears. This last season, he got to play next to Aaron Donald most of the time. 10.5 sacks. He was regarded as a bust going into this year, and they basically signed him on a prove-it deal, and guess what? He balled out. So then, let's go to another guy. In 2019, the Rams did basically the same thing they had done before. Actually, they traded for this guy in 2018, but in 2019 is when he really emerged. And that is Dante Fowler. He was the 3rd overall pick by the Jacksonville Jaguars. He flashed at times, but he had an injury right off the bat. And it wasn't a good start to his career. So he ends up getting traded from Jacksonville. And when he goes to the Rams, he jumps his sack numbers from 4 the previous season to 11.5. Aaron Donald gets just crazy production out of the guys around him. If you're a defensive lineman or you're a guy that's trying to prove it, there's no better place than to land than next to Aaron Donald. And so he's extremely versatile. He just brings so much to that defense. You look at how the Rams have built their team. They've basically done something that, I mean, a lot of defenses, it's like, okay, we're going to try to build up this position group and make it a huge strength. The Rams said, screw that. We're going to have an elite corner and we're going to have the best player in football. And those guys are going to elevate our defense to a number 1 or number 2 defense, which they were last year. Unfortunately, they had Jared Goff at quarterback, but now they have Matthew Stafford. So there is a chance that he could become the best player ever. I would not say he's there yet just because, let's see, Lawrence Taylor played 12 years. He was a Pro Bowler 10 of those years. He was an All-Pro, like, I think 8 or 9 of them. And Donald still has a ways to go. He's played 7 seasons so far, 7 very elite seasons. Don't get me wrong, like the dude is an absolute stud, but he's got to get there a little bit more before we call him the best defensive player ever. But there's no question that Aaron Donald is an absolute force and is someone that at least deserves to be recognized as one of the best defensive players ever.
Yeah, and something that you didn't even mention that you kind of brought up with Leonard Floyd was he came from Chicago. Who was in Chicago? One of the best pass rushers in the NFL, Khalil Mack, who's won a Defensive Player of the Year award, and Leonard Floyd was playing with him and struggling to get sacks. And they also had solid guys in the front, Goldman, Akeem Hicks. Those are
Akeem Hicks is an All-Pro.
Yes, that's very good. And he was playing with them, and he wasn't getting the sack numbers that he got, or anywhere near the sack numbers that he got with freaking Aaron Donald. He's an absolute monster. He elevates players unlike anybody else, I would say, currently defensively in the NFL. And I think that, talking about, we bring up guys like Lawrence Taylor as the best defensive player of all time, played in different eras. I mean, just the way that you have to rush the passer, the different hitting the quarterback rules, it's difficult to compare those two. So I think we should talk about another guy who's kind of in that conversation as probably the best modern defensive player in NFL history, in JJ Watt. Because JJ Watt, another defensive lineman, he just like Aaron Donald, he's able to line up everywhere. He is an absolute monster, and we'll probably have a video about him, where we think he'll go and everything. But this is not about that. We're talking about JJ Watt as a monster in his career, because another guy, 3 defensive player of the years. And oh my goodness, JJ Watt is an absolute menace. Even late in his career, we see him make plays. He may be the greatest ball swatter the game has ever seen. I mean, the way that he is able to just consistently jump up and bat passes and also intercept them off the defensive line. He has scored a fair amount of touchdowns off of just tipping passes, catching it himself, and taking it to the house. JJ Watt, another absolute monster. And I think he's like the perfect comparison. But I think Aaron Donald could absolutely surpass him, because we look at the guys that are currently in the NFL, the guys that are truly dominant. It's Aaron Donald, obviously. And then it's like, there's a big step back. I mean, yeah, TJ Watt is kind of coming in and he's really, really good. I don't want to discredit him, but he's nowhere near the level of like Aaron Donald and his dominance. Like TJ Watt had better stats this year, like by far. Pittsburgh had pretty much the same quality defense. And they were like, oh, but Aaron Donald, let's give it to him, because I think the voters respect how good he is. Like Aaron Donald could go down with, I think he could go down with like 5 Defensive Player of the Year awards, which may seem ridiculous, but like in the last 4 years, he's won 3. And it always seems like, oh, who should you give it to? And it's like Aaron Donald is the default because he's that good and he's only played 7 years. I think this could be a Peyton Manning's type of situation where he just has more than everybody else. Peyton Manning, I believe, has 6 MVP awards. Nobody has 5. I think a couple people have 4 MVPs. Aaron Donald could be that with the Defensive Player of the Year awards, where he just has like more than everybody else. And maybe his team doesn't have a ton of success, but I think like he could get to that point if he wins a couple more Defensive Player of the Year awards, because it doesn't look like he's slowing down. I think he very well could be put in the best defensive player of all time. Problem is, he's not going to have that type of impact that a guy like Lawrence Taylor did on the game. I mean, the amount of rules put in after him, Deacon Jones, Reggie White, those guys like truly impacted the game. And then other defensive players, like even like a Deion Sanders, who just made the cornerback position something people wanted to play, or Night Train Lane, like being a true terror in the secondary that you could not throw to. So that's going to make it difficult for him to be the greatest, but becoming the best, I think it is something that he could realistically do. And it's something that Lawrence Taylor, he's on a pedestal at the moment. Like everybody that watched Lawrence Taylor, and neither of us did watch Lawrence Taylor. We're not old enough to have watched him.
But you
but
can watch his highlights.
you
From
can
his
watch his
tweet.
highlights. And like anybody that you talk to, they're like, if you say who's the greatest defensive player of all time, if they watch Lawrence Taylor, they say Lawrence Taylor. Lawrence Taylor is the most feared edge rusher of all time, and he just absolutely owned everybody while he was coked up. Um, but something that I thought was really interesting was Lawrence Taylor during the NFL 100 selection committee. He was on the show, and they brought up another guy. His name was Reggie White, and I'm sure most people watching this video have heard of Reggie White. If you want to see a bull rush, look up Reggie White, because this dude would pick up your offensive tackle, throw him into the dirt, pick up the quarterback, and throw him into the dirt right after. He is the greatest bull rusher in the history of football. A lot of people try and bull rush, and they tell my uncle's a high school football coach. He's like, yeah, people will try and do it. And they're like, but Reggie White does. And he's like, yeah, well, Reggie White is Reggie White. Okay, stop trying to do that. But Lawrence Taylor said he was the best defensive player of all time. That's who he said. That's who Lawrence Taylor, who everybody considers as the greatest of all time, said was the best, was Reggie White, who absolutely dominated everybody. And those are the type of guys that Lawrence Taylor is getting like his name next to, or I'm sorry, Aaron Donald is getting his name next to. Because you watch his highlights. I sent something to Matt. I'm not going to put him in the video because copyright kind of stuff. But just look up freaking Aaron Donald, because there's plays where it's just like, oh, he's lined up on the edge, does a stunt. Oh, there's two guys in his way. Pick up one guy, throw him into the other offensive lineman, knock them both down, then get an easy pressure hit on the quarterback. Boom, checks mix. It's all over. That's the type of thing. Like, that's the type of thing Reggie White did. That's the type of thing Lawrence Taylor could do. He's in that level now, and he's not getting that type of recognition, but he needs to be.
I think, okay, I don't think he's not getting that type of recognition. I just think that it's hard for people to go, okay, are we like going to compare anyone to Lawrence Taylor? And I think that's where it becomes difficult. And like I said, I don't think that he's quite there yet. You know, he's only played 7 years. Not Reggie White. Lawrence Taylor played 12, 8 All-Pros, 10 Pro Bowlers. So he had that success for a little bit longer. But I do think it's time to recognize, like, hey, when it's all said and done with Aaron Donald's career, he very well could be in that mix. And you brought up the team's success. They just traded for Matthew Stafford. That is a massive upgrade at quarterback. You know, you got Sean McVay, which some people feel like he gets a little bit, I don't know, like a lot of people like him a little too much, I guess. I'm a big fan of Sean McVay. I think he's had a lot of success, and he's turned it around in LA. But what does Aaron Donald have to legitimately do if we're going to say he's better than Lawrence Taylor or Reggie White, or I think he's better than J.J. Watt throughout his career at this point?
Yeah.
But the Deacon Jones, the Reggie White, the Lawrence Taylor, what does he have to do in your mind, McConnell?
I think he has to do one of two things. Well, I guess he could do like other things. He'd be like, oh, he broke the sack record, but I'm not gonna throw that in there. Either win an MVP. I think if he wins an MVP in the modern era, I think that could put him like he's there. Like, he is next to Lawrence Taylor right there. The other thing he could do, I brought it up earlier, like if he wins like 2 more Defensive Player of the Year awards or something of that nature, where it's like he has 5, it would be absolutely ridiculous. The other thing is, like, if the Lions, or not the Lions, I'm sorry, I was thinking Stafford. If the Rams are able to go out and they like win a Super Bowl or 2 Super Bowls, and maybe he wins like a Super Bowl MVP of that nature, like that's the type of thing that can get him there. Because if you remember when he got to the Super Bowl, I mean, they held the Patriots to 13 points. Like, they did not get thrown all over by Tom Brady. They did their job on defense. That the offense is what struggled. So I think winning an MVP of some sort, Super Bowl, regular season, or if he's able to win, like even if he wins like 1 more Defensive Player of the Year, I think it's possible. But I think 2 would like really be like, okay, he's there. Like, he's next to Lawrence Taylor right there on that all-time list. It's kind of sad that the NFL 100 all-time team wasn't like 2 years later, because I think Aaron Donald would have absolutely been on that team. But unfortunately, you can't just change time. So that's kind of how it works. But yeah, that's what I would say. MVP or 2 Defensive Player of the Years, or if he gets like both, then it's like, I think he's the greatest ever. But it's going to be insane.
It's crazy because like he's really getting up there, and you kind of start looking at it from afar and you go, oh, okay, so there's only 3 guys with 3 Defensive Player of the Years. He's one of them. He's been dominant his whole career. He's going to be 30 next year. Hasn't shown any signs whatsoever of slowing down. He elevates everyone around him. And especially when he was first on the Rams, they did not have a strong defense, but he created he was the whole defense. If you remember that, right when McVay got over there, they were bad. They weren't winning. They were losing a lot of games. And it was him just bringing them up to the top. And now they're a really strong defense. They are losing a lot of players, so that's something to note going into next year, just for how successful he can become. But he's doing it, man. He's a scary player, and as a Niner fan, it's not a guy that you want to see them go up against. I mean, he can wreck a game. He can single-handedly wreck a game, and there's just not many guys that have been able to do that in NFL history.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it to wrap up this video. If you liked it, hit the like button down below. Once again, if you agree, if you have a roast, if you have a funny joke, or you have anything that you want to say in the comment section down below, make sure to do that, because, you know, we think it's funny. We love reading the comments. We were laughing last night after that Luka video. If you have another player that you want us to talk about or any video suggestions, let us know. Hit the subscribe button to see more videos. And the goal is to try and do as many daily uploads as possible. We're really trying to increase the video count, because, well, it's a lot of fun, and we have this new, background, so it looks a lot better. So we feel happy about that. But that's pretty much it. Thanks to everybody for watching. Once again, that's Matt. I'm Akana. So you don't have to call us glasses and, I don't know, weird mustache guy.
Not glasses. The clown in the glasses.
Clown with glasses. But yeah, see you all again next time.